Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Beehive State, which is also known as Utah, Roar, Utah to be exact. And today's date, Monday, June 27th, 2016. Oh yes, this is I know the biggest trend right now is the Brexit. I call it the Brexit Aftermath, and my friend and I, we've been keeping tabs on this for a good period of time, and I did post the stuff on there on Facebook over the weekend, and I just really, it's, some people like to use that fear factor and to have everyone be paranoid. And of course, President Obama and Hillary Clinton had the audacity to say, you have to stay in the EU. It proves one thing there, my friends. They're nothing more than bend-over Bobs and Barbies to the New World Order. Can we say about that? Even Hillary Clinton herself, if you're still going to be voting for her, if you live in the United States of America, I have pity and no shame on you, because it proves one thing. Respectfully, you are illiterate, not informed, and hypnotized. I'm not saying I'm better than you, but I have taken the initiative to do my homework. And of course, a person like myself and many others have followed her for a good 24 years, and always say is not impressive. Not impressive towards this woman at all. So, and the people have spoken. 52% said get out of the EU, which I have to give them a thumbs up. However, we still got to be vigilant. Even the people, the brothers and sisters in Great Britain as well. They're going to try to pull some fast ones. They're going to try to do the little temper tantrum. You shouldn't be doing, how dare you? We own you. What the truth of the matter is, my friends, they have to be vigilant, be informed, and stay proactive. I think a fantastic thing about this is other countries, like 8 other nations within the EU, wants to get out as well. Just the message has been sent that this past Thursday, the people of Great Britain defecated on the Club of Rome. And I can say I'm happy about that. But how authentic it is, we can say, not 100% guaranteed. I'll say that respectfully, because I am going to address a few things on here, talks about it. But I am, satisfied in those areas. And I believe every nation that's trying to be in this Club of Rome cancer has to abolish it, perish it completely out of their system. It may not be perfect, but it could be a lot more better, because Brussels know best is completely irrelevant. So I'm going to be narrating a few topics on there on the Brexit Aftermath, and plus a few others on different subjects as well. I'm not going to go harping on this here all day. And this one here came from Zero Hedge. And originally, Dollar Vigilante did retweet this. It says here, President of the European Parliament. This is not the EU philosophy that the crowd can decide its fate. What a glam boy, right? It says here, if anyone needs any confirmation that the European Union is fundamentally the most anti-democratic entity currently in existence, and the following statement by European Parliament Martin Schulz should put it all confusion to rest. And this was written by Dresden, Ted Dresden. It says here, Schulz, the British have violated the rules. It is not the EU philosophy that the crowd can decide its fate. What a spoiled little brat, huh? Confused. Here is what Deutsche Bank said earlier today. Shockwaves and consequences around Brexit will resonate for years. It's probably an understatement to say that the most in financial markets regret the UK's decision to leave, but we should respect the forces that have been pushing us towards what has always been an inevitable political accident sometime soon. I wasn't sure whether the Brexit vote was the one, but I was pretty convinced one was coming, and this probably not the last. Spain yesterday started general election, more below but relatively market friendly. Of the largest 5 euro area economies, Spain, Holland, France, Germany, and Italy, over the next 18 months or so. Not forgetting the U.S. this November will in the crucial Senate reform vote in Italy in October, and you've got plenty of opportunity for rebellion against the establishment that haven't managed to produce satisfactory enough growth for the lower paid, lower skilled to offset the forces of globalization and immigration. It's worth looking at the voting split in the UK's EU referendum based on polls compiled by Lord Ashcroft to get an idea of the disenfranchisement. In terms socio-economic groups, 57% of the AB's upper middle class, professional managers, etc. voted Remain. 49% of C1's lower middle class, supervisory, clerical, or junior management administrative, 36% of C2's skilled working class, and 36% of DE's, which is these for semi-unskilled manual workers, as casual, lowest grade worker, or state pensioner. So there is no escaping the fact this is a class war. Whether it's globalization, immigration, inequality, poor economic growth, or a combination of all of them, it is quite clear from this and other anti-establishment movements that the status quo can't last in a democracy. Eventually, you have a reaction. This one such major reaction, and given that the UK growth rate has been okay of late, it will be strange if pressure didn't continue to build elsewhere where growth has been lower for longer. It is indeed a class war, and the European Union is not used to losing. But so so you can say it's all, you know, all part of the examples of what's been happening over there. And originally they wanted to use the EU. They portray it as unite all of Europe to compete with Japan. Well, it actually blew back in people's faces because if you start look at the Club of Rome, there's like 10 regions that the Club of Rome wants, and of course the European Union's one of them. And now what's been happening? The big central banks are pissed or ticked off because a lot of them hit pretty hard, but there's even claims too that others benefited from it. So this is just one example, which like I said, I have endorsed this. I'm happy about it, but it's going to be a rough ride regardless. And so, of course, can this be another stepping stone in World War III? It's possible. I'm not saying yes or no, but it can lead to that. So everyone out there need to pay attention and prepare yourselves regardless. It doesn't matter, but people gotta be ready at the best of their abilities. So this one here came from Ron Paul Institute, written by former Congressman Ron Paul. After Brexit, can we exit a few things too? Last week, UK vote to leave the EU may have come as a shock to many, but the sentiment that led British votes to reject rule from Brussels is nothing unique. In fact, it is growing sentiment worldwide, frustration with politics as usual with political parties that really do not differ in philosophy, with an economy that serves the 1% at the expense of the rest of society is a growing phenomenon throughout Europe and in the United States as well. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump's phenomena are but one example of frustrating public sensing something is very wrong with society and looking for a way out. What's happening in the UK, in Europe, and in the US is nothing less than a breakdown of the entire system. The EU is meant to be a customs union, where post-World War II Western Europe could rebuild itself through free trade and reduction in bureaucracy. Through corruption and political ambition, it became an unelected bully government in Brussels, where the well-connected were well-compensated and insulated from the votes of mere citizens. Whatever happens in the near future, and it's certainly not assured that the vote to Brexit will actually end in the UK's departure from the EU. A line has been crossed that supporters of moral personal liberty should celebrate. Rule from London is preferably to liberty-minded Britons than rules from Brussels. Excuse me here. Just as Texans should prefer rule from Austin to rule from Washington. This doesn't make either option perfect, just more likely to produce more freedom. The opportunity is there. That's what Congressman Paul has to say. Is Brexit the first victory in a larger freedom movement? Can we get out of a system that creates money out of thin air to benefit the ruling class while impoverishing the middle class? Can we get out of a central bank that finances the wars that make us less safe? Can we exit executive orders? Can we exit the surveillance state, the Patriot Act? Can we exit NDAA and indefinite detention? Can we exit the U.S. worldwide drone program that kills innocent overseas and make us ever more hated? Getting out of NATO would be a first good move. This Cold War relic survives only by stirring up conflict and then selling itself as the only option to confront the conflict it churned up. It wouldn't be better not not go looking for a fight in the first place? Do we need still another NATO military exercise on the Russian border? It should be no surprise that NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg was fear-mongering on the eve of the Brexit vote, warning UK citizens if they vote to leave, they could face increased terrorism. These are typical ass clowns, okay? Guys like Stoltenberger, another Uncle Tom to the One World Order. Likewise, the U.S. would do well to exit the various phony free trade agreements that provide advantage to the well-connected elites while harming the rest of us. The act of exit is liberating. We should make a longer list of those things we would like to get out of. I'm only getting started. I have to agree with Congressman Paul on this because the truth of the matter is, my friend, it is inspiring to the freedom-loving sovereign thinkers out there worldwide. All right, because even Catalonia is talking about still pending on seceding from Spain, and Spain wants to get out of here. Hungary, Austria, the list goes on and on out of the European Union. And I remember there's talk about Alberta wants to separate from Canada, the Federation, the Canadian Federation, because it's two different cultures. And the problem is this centralization is contagious, it's contaminating, it's contaminating, and that's considered blasphemous. So this is very exciting times, my friend. Of course, the stock markets and so forth, the fear factor. You know what? Like I said, it's going to be a rough ride, but you got to give, once again, Britain homage for this. They stood for what was right. And Congressman Paul always hits out of the ballpark. People, I remember some of the idiots out there called him, he needs to wear a tinfoil hat. They want to support these other butt lugs in their party. Now look what happened. You know what I say? Welcome to blowback. Patsy hunting doesn't pay. Okay, next one here. Oh, I did this twice here. Sorry about that. Next one here, another thing pertaining to Brexit. It says here, over $2 trillion wiped out after Brexit. Friday was the biggest single day loss ever. Came out today by Max Slavo, by shtfplan.com. You figure it out. Whatever your feelings on the victory of Brexit campaigners in the UK, the ensuing drama in Europe, the referendum has taken a heavy toll on the economy. There were massive loss last Friday before the markets closed. More than $2 trillion in wealth was wiped out. Hundreds of the world's richest lost as much as $1 billion in just a day. And the worst could be yet to come. The unprecedented market chaos was even larger than that which precipitated the 2008 financial collapse via Reuters. The $2.08 trillion wiped off global equity market on Friday after Britain voted to leave the European Union was the biggest daily loss ever, trumping the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy during the 2008 financial crisis and the Black Monday stock market crash of 1987, according to Standard & Poor's Dow Jones indices. Global markets skidded following the unexpected result from the June 23 referendum in which Britons voted to withdraw from the EU by 52% to a 48% margin. Markets in mainland Europe were hit the worst, with Milan and Madrid each down more than 12% for their biggest losses ever. People positioned themselves longer because they thought the market was going to pop, he said. We knew that we were going to sell off petty hard, and people were kindly shocked by the market. In dollar terms, Friday's loss overtook the previous record from September 29, 2008, the day when Congress rejected a $700 billion bailout package for Wall Street during the financial crisis. On that day, global markets lost $1.94 trillion. As a result, Britain's credit ratings was downgraded, and investors are now waiting to see what will happen next and whether or not things will spill over into further losses. Many fears then an all-out recession could be underway. Jeff Berg of the Dollar Vigilante has gone far to argue that the BRICS collapse was planned by those at the top, with insider investments and plans for what became a massive and quiet bailout in British markets. Lost in the headlines on that Friday, Bank of England Governor Mike Carney committed to print up £250 billion, which is 345.93 billion US dollars, to support financial markets. Interesting, huh? No one has mentioned that or even seems to know about it. So within hours, the banks in the UK appear to have received a massive 2008-style bailout, but without anyone noticing. And who profited? People like George Soros, who moved into gold as his biggest position and shorted the markets just in the last few weeks. Given this, I think it's safe to say that this was planned. Who will ultimately benefit from this new crisis, and how widespread will its destruction be? Only time will tell. But there's a good reason to think that this worst is not over, and that the more financial disaster is underway. Be watchful and careful with your investments. Of course, you have to look at that other side as well. So, you have to look at all ends. However, if you're really smart, I always say when it comes to collapses, there's always opportunity. And you have to be the smart ones. And something like this can happen. Be self-contained, self-efficient. And the government should not tell you what to do. It's not just the United States, but the world. I always stress this. A government in Latin means control of the mind. All right? And they're the most dirty, one of the most corrupt entities out there. Okay, so it doesn't matter. But you have to always look at the bigger picture. And we all know, too, the Club of Rome is going to try to blow back and put more people into paranoia and anxiety and more propaganda. Okay, mind control to tell people you need us, you need us, you need us. And you know what? You have to have that mindset of, no, you need us. Okay? Or we need you more, you need us. Or you need us more, we need you. Excuse me. So I made that little mistake there. I corrected it. But can it be set up? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So invest wisely, be prepared, stay self-contained at the best of your abilities. So that's one thing you have to look at. However, like I said, in the bigger picture overall, I'm happy that the brothers and sisters in Britain sent a powerful message to the Club of Rome. And I can say that African Union, Oceania, even North American Union, which we've been battling over here for most of the last 9 years. And we gotta keep pursuing this. And anyone, and you ask these candidates if they agree if they disagree that Britain shouldn't exit the EU. You know what? You tell them to step down because you're contaminating space. You're nothing more than a puppet to the one world order. Say it right to their faces. Put it on video. Call these vultures out. But like I said before, it's gonna be rough, but I am happy about this. Okay, next one here came from WeMeantWell.com, and Ghost of Thomas Joe, story of the 99%. And it says here, Google, YouTube, Facebook, others now using automated blocking of extremist content. And I could say, you might see my last episode too. I talk about censorship, the new censorship on Google. So it does coincide. All right, it says here, web's biggest content providers have started using automation to remove extremist propaganda videos from their site. And it's a fact, my friend. I could tell you a few things too. Yeah, censoring content. YouTube owned by Google, and Facebook among the sites deploying systems to block or rapidly take down Islamic State videos and other similar material, sources said, though no company will confirm the action. The technology employed was originally developed by removing more copyright protected content on video sites. It looks for hashes, unique digital fingerprints that internet companies automatically assign to specific videos, allowing all content with matching fingerprints to be removed rapidly. Some finds an offensive video, tags it, and then searches find other copies across the internet. Newly posted video will be checked against database of banned content to identify unauthorized information. The system was kicked off in late April and amid pressure from an Obama White House concern about online radicalization. Internet companies held a conference to discuss options, including the use of content blocking system put forward by the Private Counter-Extremism Project, a project controlled in part by George W. Bush Homeland Security Advisor Francis Townsend. Hallelujah. Make me feel safe, please. Get it yet? Government and private industry will decide what content you, as well as journalists and academics, may see on the internet, and what is not allowable will be decided by a closed process and will be automated. Oh, so you can have the digital machines with our programs say, this is offensive. We can't have people think. Databases and tagging can be hacked, manipulated, perhaps by governmental intelligence organizations, maybe some bad guys. Hell, even by advertisers to control what is available to you online. Site content removed equals content prohibited. You'll never know what you can't see. The obvious slippery slope is in the decision about what is extremist and what is legitimate free political speech that, while offensive, has a right to be heard and a place in the markets of idea. So how about blocking all videos of police violence during, say, Ferguson-Bomo scenario, so as not to inflame the situation? Even if government A plays nicely, government A plays nicely, government B may not. And dictatorships and oligarchies will have a new tool for repression. In the same way, Western companies are forced, now by China for example, to adjust content. They will likely be forced to add things to the no-fly database of ideas. Corporations will be in position to censor things on the behalf of governments. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Via the Edward Snowden documents, we already know that many tech companies cooperate directly with the NSA and others, either voluntarily or under pressure from secret national security practices and laws. It is not a matter of what it can happen here, but one of it is already happening here. But some will say Google et al. Are private companies. Yes, so they can do what they want with their businesses and you don't have to use them. Certain private businesses, such as power companies and transparency providers, have become clearly so much a part of society that indeed can't just do what they want. They become public utilities, and there is no doubt that organizations like Google are squarely in category. Lastly, for those who prefer dictionary things, do check up on the definition of true fascism, a collision between government and industry. Absolutely, the fascistic way, my friends. And like I could tell you before, I have been censored on YouTube on one of my videos, but they had no merit. They couldn't give me a reason why. And you know what? They had to put it back on. So this is what's interesting because it's the cyber wars. That's what's been happening. More people are waking up little by little. And the problem is people, these multinational corporations, including Google, YouTube, Facebook, and others, don't like it. So we gotta be more strategic in what we put out. But regardless, put it out there. I say, I'm pro free speech, pro freedom. So we gotta keep putting the pressure on these yahoos like cockroaches. You can't kill us all. You can't kill our free speech. You can't kill all of our free speech. So I just find it very intriguing. So let's see what some of the comments have to say here. Let's find out in good faith. Richard Bauer says that when Donald Trump holds his first White House meeting with Google and Facebook, we can assume the agenda will conclude content blocking all about the lies of Donald Trump. Oh, media matters. Can I go to the toilet now? Please. And of course, he says the other thing, I may be blocked from the site for bringing the subject up. Peter, when are you going to finally deliver the eulogy for the DOA subject for Hillary being indicted? The FBI can present their case and ask Obama's Attorney General to bring an indictment. Hillary has says there's a zero chance for her being indicted. Obama has now endorsed Hillary. If there was any chance he wouldn't have endorsed her, what say you? And he says, the reply, okay, my prediction, of course you won't be indicted. The FBI report will be whitewashed. Then some inside CIA NSA leaks the real story and American voters don't care. A little something to think about there. But yeah, like I said, it's just everyone's got to look at the bigger picture. So, hey, my friends, like I said, there's other sites out there. Just hit these search engines and share these information with everyone as well. Don't give up the fight. It's just the beginning. All right. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, it's from the Resurrected Republic by Thomas R. LaCarver Stewart. He's based out of Philadelphia. He has a show called ResurrectedRepublic.com. You can get the link on there. No big deal. He's good too. He's good at what he does. I always give him a token of appreciation. And it says here, Clinton body count raised by one. Man set to testify dies in the same day via barbell to the neck. Sure, it's amazing how lucky the Clintons have got when people are going to testify against them and then they die. Ashe was due in court Monday with his Chinese businessman co-defendant Mek Lap Seng, who was charged with smuggling $4.5 million into the U.S. since 2013 and lying that it was to buy art and casino chips. Neg was identified in a 1998 Senate report as the sources of hundreds of thousands of dollars illegally funneled through the Arkansas restaurant owner Charles Trey to the Democratic National Committee during the Clinton administration. Neg was not charged with any crime. Neg and Trey had visited the White House several times for Democratic fundraising events and were photographed with then President Bill Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton. CFR stooge and the Jezebel halt to the New World Order, right? One source told me during the trial the prosecutors would have linked to Ashe to the Clinton Bagman Nig. It would have been very embarrassing. His death was conveniently timed. Read the rest at page6.com. And I have to say this. Page6.com, I tried it. I put the link on there to the search engine on there, and they couldn't. The files have been wiped off. So I'm going to do the next paragraph, and I'm going to address two sites from Channel 7, WABC, and New York Post. So it says here, more about the death below. Dobbs Ferry, New York. A former president of the UN General Assembly awaiting trial in a bribery scandal died in a weightlifting accident when the barbell he was lifting from a bench dropped on his neck, an autopsy revealed Thursday. John Ashe was declared dead late Wednesday afternoon by a paramedic who was responded to his Dobbs Ferry home. Dr. Kunjalala Ashar, Westchester County's medical examiner, said the cause of death, traumatic septicemia, was determined during an autopsy. Through she did not perform the procedure herself and did not have any additional details. It was deemed an accident based on a combination of information from the autopsy and an investigation by Dobbs Ferry Police Department, officials said. The police department said in a statement that the death paper appears accidental but provided little information. It is the rest on ABC7NewYork.com, which I want to address that. So for all those who are aware of the bodies that surround the political court machine, should come at no surprise. Yep. We know how those criminal scumbags are, the Clintons. And you know what? We'll just read what they have to say on Eyewitness 7 News, WABC TV, which is based out of New York City. Coroner, former UN official John Ashe died when the barbell fell on his neck. From the Associated Press. And it says right down here, it's almost very similar. And I like what it says here. I'll repeat it. A former president, UN General Assembly waiting trial for bribery scandal, died in a weightlifting accident when a barbell where he was lifting from a bench dropped on his neck. An autopsy revealed Thursday John Ashe was declared dead late Wednesday afternoon by a paramedic who responded to his Dobbs Ferry home. Of course, Dr. John Ashe, Westchester County medical examiner, said the cause of death, traumatic asphyxia. Asphyxia. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Was determined during the autopsy, though she did not perform the procedure herself and did not have any additional details. It was deemed an accident based on a combination of information from the autopsy and an investigation by the Dobbs Ferry Police Department officials said. The police department said in a statement that the death appears accidental but provided little information otherwise. Ashe, the former United Nations ambassador, was on the twin island Caribbean nation of Antigua and Barbuda, was arrested last fall and he had pleaded not guilty to tax charges related to a bribery scandal. His attorney said he was planning to go to trial. In a statement Wednesday, current UN General Assembly President Mongis Lakharov described Ashe as a hard-working and popular member of the diplomatic corps in New York and at the United Nations. Before he faced the unproven allegations, he said Ashe died of a heart attack. Prosecutors said the billionaire Chinese businessman and others funneled over $1 million to Ashe while he served as the president of the 193 Nation Assembly from September 13, 2013 to September 2014. The billionaire Chinese real estate maven to the diplomats and the humanitarian organization officers were among others charged in the case. Ashe attorney Jeremy Snyder called his client's death a tragic loss for his family and the community. Very, very suspicious, right? Oh yeah. It's like like the cloak and dagger of corruption. Let's see what the New York Post has to say about this. Troubled came at the same time too. NewYorkPost.com. Troubled ex-UN official dies after barbell falls on his neck. Kaja White House wrote. The former head of the UN General Assembly, who was facing criminal charges on federal bribery case, died of asphyxiation after dropping a barbell on his neck, authorities said Thursday. John Ashe, 61, who was president of the General Assembly from 2013 to 2014, died at his home in Westchester village of Dobbs Ferry Wednesday afternoon from traumatic asphyxia with language cartilage fractures while lifting the barbell on bench. The county medical examiner's office said in a statement the death was ruled an accident. The current General Assembly President Mongos Lakharov said earlier that Ashe died of a heart attack. Ashe lawyers said the client has been suffering from an undiagnosed medical condition and that his family has discovered him passed out twice in the last few months. He was a loving, devoted family man who had every reason to fight this and to live, said the attorney Jeremy Schneider. He called the Ashe death tragic loss for his family and the community. Ashe, a Caribbean nation of Antigua and Barbuda, was charged with tax fraud in October, allegedly taking kickbacks in exchange for promises for paved the way for real estate deals and other business ventures, mostly in China. The Fed said he used bribe cash to build a basketball court at his home. Ashe also used the money to splurge on luxuries, including hand-tailored suits, Rolex watches, and a BMW X5 SUV, according to Manhattan U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara. It was the second death this week of a defendant facing charges from the Manhattan U.S. Attorney. Hedge fund manager Sanjay Valvani killed himself Monday, a week after he was arrested on insider trading charges. Very, very interesting, huh, my friends? How the world of corruption can go. This is why you have to always pay attention, observe responsibly. I do find some foul play, hypothetically speaking. But like I said, you never know, right? When it comes to these scandals and the corrupted community. So that's why I gotta say this, my friends. If you're voting for Hillary Clinton to be president, you're gonna be punked and swindled. And I'm not telling everyone that Donald Trump is my Lord and Savior as well. The individuals of the United States gotta get together and solve these matters on a local level, not from Washington, D.C. Remember, it's the United States, not the centralized states. So, once again, corrupted version of Cloak and Dagger. And it's a real shame what happened to Mr. Ashe. So, I can't judge him, but I am not fond of the United Nations as well. part of the One World Order platform. Okay, speaking of corruption, I'm having too much fun here. Reuters.com, it came out yesterday. CIA weapons for Syrian rebels sold to arms black market. Says here weapons shipped into Jordan for Syrian rebels by the Central Intelligence Agency and Saudi Arabia were stolen by Jordanian intelligence operatives and sold arms to merchants on the black market, the New York Times reported, citing Americans and Jordanian officials. Some of the stolen weapons were used in a shooting in November that killed 2 Americans and 3 others at a police training facility in Amman, according to the joint investigation by the New York Times and Al Jazeera. Jordanian officer shot dead 2 U.S. government security contractors, a South African trainer, and 2 Jordanians at a U.S.-funded police training facility near Amman before being killed in the shootout. Jordanian authorities had said in November the training facility was set up on the outskirts of the capital, Amman, after the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq to help rebuild shattered country's post-war security forces and to train Palestinian police officers. The weapons used in the shooting had originally arrived in Jordan for the Syrian rebel training program, the paper reported, citing American and Jordanian officials. Theft of the weapons, which ended months ago after the complaints by the American and Saudi government, has led to a flood of new weapons available on the armed black markets. The New York Times said the Jordanian officers who were part of the plan reap a windfall from sales of weapons, using the money to buy iPhones, SUVs, and other luxurious items, according to the paper, which cited Jordanian officials. The CIA could not immediately reach for comment, is reporting by Albiana Vajayagaravan in Bangalore. Hopefully I pronounced that person's name right, correctly. So forgive me, okay, my friends. But hey, man, it's another game of the One World Order machine. Let's reap the people's money and use it to sell weapons across the country to other parts of the world and let them and see it get sold to the black market. Man, this is so pathetic. That's why I'm very critical of these areas and these certain departments. And don't get me wrong, there's people within the Central Intelligence Agency are beautiful, awesome folks, but they have some higher ups in there that don't give a damn about them also. That's why I say always in the past, and I say it again, preserve our republic, defy and deprecate on the empire, because everyone is suffering, including the American people. Blow back, my friends. Read that book by Johansson. Look it up. Very good stuff. So, another more drama of the imperialist knows best. All right, next one here came from Who, What, Why. Classic. Who, What, Why. Was Tamerlan Tsarnaev a double agent recruited by the FBI? It says here, Omar Mateen has been on the FBI's radar for some time before he opened fire at a nightclub in Florida, killing 49 and wounding 53 people. Now the public is asking why the FBI didn't do something to prevent the tragedy. Glenn Greenwald responded with an article in the Washington Post. The FBI was right not to arrest Omar Mateen before the shooting. He wanted the pressure on the FBI to be more proactive, what will inevitably lead to more draconian anti-terror legislation and the loss of even more civil liberties in the name of preventing the unpreventable. There's a link for that too, so check it out. But there is a legitimate reason to question the FBI. There are times when the Bureau seems to be playing dangerous games with dangerous people, as shown in the article below. This was first published in June of 2013. At the time, we said there were aspects of the Boston Marathon bombing where the official story just doesn't add up. But what if these inconsistencies point to something amiss on a far deeper level? What if the FBI initial claim that it didn't know who Tsarnaev brothers were? In fact, we knew about them for several years, hides even bigger embarrassment. Update last month. Who, What, Why. James Henry reported that despite public denials, the FBI secretly flagged Tamerlan as a terrorist threat in his immigration records, and the Bureau admitted that it conducted a 6-month-long assessment of Tsarnaev 2 years before the bombing. But then the FBI said it closed the investigation after it found no link or nexus to terrorism. Can you see? You see the patterns here, my friends? Hey, same thing happened with Omar Mateen. Pattern, same operation. Patterns are the same, identical, coexisting, coincide, etc. Contradicting that statement, both the CIA, FBI and CIA had actually put Tsarnaev's name on a terrorist watch list, saying that he may be armed and dangerous, and that screening him is mandatory if he attempts to board an airplane. So they didn't. So why didn't they do so? And there's a photo too, credit by the FBI seeking information. Of course, Omar Mateen, deceased. Hey, how cute, right? Was, and of course here, it says the same thing. Was Tamerlan Tsarnaev a double agent recruited by the FBI? Amid this world of mystery surrounding the alleged Boston bombers, one fact barely touched upon the mainstream media stands out. There is strong possibility that Tamerlan Tsarnaev, his two older brothers, was a double agent, perhaps recruited by the FBI. If Tsarnaev was a double agent, he should be just one of thousands of young people coursed by the FBI as the price for settling a minor legal problem into a dangerous cancer career, as an informant. That he was be coerced as the easiest explanation for two seemingly incompatible incidents in his life. The first, that he returned to Russia in 2012 ostensibly to renew his Russian passport so he could file an application for U.S. citizenship. The second is that Tsarnaev then jeopardized his citizenship application with conspicuous, provocative, almost theatrical behavior that seemed more caricature than characteristic of a Muslim extremist. False notes. While working around in flashy Western clothes in the Russian Republic of Dagestan, he visited his cousin Magdu Khosrow, a prominent Islamist leader already on the Russian radar. The two reportedly spent hours discussing Tsarnaev's wish to join a terrorist cell there in the Caucasus. Later, Russian authorities asked Khosrow that if he tried to incite Tsarnaev with extremist views, Khosrow said it was the other way around. He tried to convince Tsarnaev that violent methods are not right. Experts agree that Tsarnaev could not have expected such provocative activity to escape the notice of vigilant Russian authorities. First, the Russian request came in March 2011 through an FBI office in the United States Embassy in Moscow. One-page request said Mr. Tsarnaev had changed drastically since 2010 and was preparing to travel to be part of Russia to join unspecified underground groups. Back in America, Tsarnaev again called attention to himself as a radical Muslim. Just 1 month after he returned from his trip, a YouTube page that appeared to belong to him featured multiple jihadist videos that had purportedly endorsed. Pretty strange there, right? And in January 2013, he got himself thrown out of a mosque in Cambridge for shouting out a speaker who compared the Prophet Muhammad to Martin Luther King Jr. Tsarnaev rarely attended his mosque, but he must have known it was a moderate. He'd done something similar to the previous November at the same mosque. Typically, jihadists are trained to blend in, to be as conspicuous as possible. Did Tsarnaev go to this mosque with the express intent of smoking out possible radicals? The key, Tsarnaev's puzzling behavior may lie in the answer to another question. When exactly did Tsarnaev first come to the attention of the FBI? The timeline offered by the agency and duly reported by the mainstream media has been inconsistent. One storyline focuses the FBI's response to an alert from Russian authorities. Eric Schmidt and Michael S. Schmidt of the New York Times wrote April 24, 2013. The first Russian request came in March 2011 through the FBI's office in the United States Embassy in Moscow. One-page request said Mr. Tsarnaev had changed drastically. Now it looks like I'm repeating myself. Forgive me there, my friends. Had changed drastically since 2010 and was preparing to travel part of Russia to join unspecified groups. The Russian request was reportedly based on intercept phone calls between Tsarnaev's mother and an unidentified person. This from The Guardian, London, April 21st, 2013. According to another source, several calls were intercepted, including one between Tsarnaev and his mother. So, Was it the Russian alert in March 20th, 2011 that first prompted the FBI to investigate Tsarnaev? This conclusion seems undermined by another report in the Times, written 4 days earlier by the same two reporters plus a third. The dated agencies first contacted with Tamerlan and family members at least 2 months earlier in January 2011. If the FBI interviewed Tsarnaev before the Russians asked them to, then it was prompt the agencies interested in him. Where is his contacts? Here were his contacts here as well in Russian considered useful to American counterintelligence? The Canadian connection. Interesting here. Although it has not known why the Russians were intercepting phone calls involving the Tsarnaevs, one reason might have been Tamerlan's connection, direct or indirect, with a Canadian terrorist named William Plotnikov. Okay. According to the USA Today, a Russian security official told that AP that Plotnikov has been detained in Dagestan, which that's southern part of the Russian Federation, which is in the Caspian Sea, if I'm correct. I have a listener out there too, and I thank him for checking it out. In December 2010, on a suspicion of having ties to the militants during his interrogation, was forced to hand over a list of social networking friends from the United States and Canada who liked him once lived in Russia. Novoya Gazeta reported. The newspaper said Tsarnaev's name was on that list, bringing him for the first time to the attention of Russia's Secret Service. Accordingly to a slightly different version, Plotnikov, under interrogation in the militant hotbed of Dagestan, named Tsarnaev as a fellow extremist. The similar backgrounds of Plotnikov and Tsarnaev make it likely they have indeed been in contact. Both were recent immigrants from the former Soviet Union. Both had successful boxing careers in North America, and both surprised their friends by converting to extreme Islamist extremism. Plotnikov was a member of the Caucasus Emirate, an Al-Qaeda ally, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had been searching for him since 2010. By 2011, the United States had joined the Russians in targeting his terrorist group as an Al-Qaeda ally and had offered $5 million for information leading to the capture of the group's leader, Daka Umarov, which is on the Moscow Times, May 11, 2011. Plotnikov was killed in July 2012 in the shootout between militants and police in Dagestan. Tsarnaev left Dagestan for America 2 days after Plotnikov was killed. Interesting, you know? Interesting. Al-Qaeda ally, Caucasus Emirate. Sometimes you gotta always know who is how high is that mountain. U.S. and Russia shares concerns. Tsarnaev's hope for a Russian passport would have been put at risk by his openly provocative behavior in Dagestan unless he was acting as an informant, but for which the U.S. or Russia, the United States and Russia, to share concerns in the arc of crisis stretching from Afghanistan to the Caucasus, terrorism and drugs. The two problems are interrelated because drugs, especially in the Caucasus, help finance terror operations. This violently affects Russia, both because it has the highest heroin death rates in the world, even more because some of its member republics like Dagestan are up to 80% Muslim. This shared concern has led to a successful joint U.S.-Russia anti-drug operation in Afghanistan. Was Tamerlan Tsarnaev caught up in a similar counterintelligence operation? Man, this thing's on and on and on. It's very intriguing here, my friends, yeah? That's why you always got to look at the bigger picture. Like it says here, FBI's dysfunctional informant program. One of the more controversial features of the FBI informants program is the frequent with which FBI agents coerce young people into the dangerous role of informant as a price for selling a minor legal problem. Tsarnaev fits the mold. His successful career as a boxer was interrupted, and his application for U.S. citizenship was held up and perhaps denied because 2009 domestic violence complaint was standing in his way. This alone would mark him as a candidate for recruitment. Thousands of vulnerable young people avoid overcrowded prisons by agreeing to become snitches, sometimes wearing a wire. In this way, a person whose only crime may have been selling marijuana to a friend can end up risking his career, even his life, and for what? According to Sarah Tillman in The New Yorker, the snitch-based system has proved notoriously unreliable, fueling wrongful convictions. In 2000, more than 20 innocent African-American men and... Whoa. Hold on here, my friends. Let me just... I'll be back in a moment. Sorry about that. I was just making sure I was on the right track. So, yeah, so I'm on the right track here. Forgive me there. About the snitch-based system. It says here, okay, like in 2000, more than 20 innocent African-American men in Hearne, Texas were arrested on cocaine charges based on false accusations of an informant seeking to escape a burglary charge. This incident and a number of cases of others like it prompt a call for national legislation to regulate informant use. After 9/11, the coercive techniques of the FBI drug war, along with half of the agents using them, were directed to surveillance of Muslims. The emphasis was no longer of an investigation of specific crimes, but the recruitment of spies to report on all Muslim communities. In 2005, the FBI Office of the Inspector General found that the high percentage of cases involving informants contained violations of the FBI's own guidelines. It noted, since then, 2001, the rules have been loosened to reflect a new emphasis on intelligence gathering and, by extension, the Bureau's urgent need for informants. According to the Center on National Security at Fordham Law School, nearly every major post-9/11 terrorism-related prosecution has involved in a sting operation at the center of which is a government informant. In these cases, the informants who work for money or are seeking leniency on criminal charges of their own have crossed the line from merely observing potential criminal behavior to encouraging and assisting people to participate in plots that are largely scripted by the FBI itself. Under the FBI's guiding hand, the informants provide the weapons, suggest the targets, and even initiate the inflammatory political rhetoric that later elevates the charges to the level of terrorism. That's a writer from Mother Jones, Trevor Aronson, who also investigated FBI informants, led terrorism cases for over a year. He too found that in a number of cases the government provided plots, the means, and opportunity. And Mother Jones, has this. I'm not too keen, but if the article has merit, I will commend it. So you gotta make your own decisions out there. Refuse the FBI and see what happens. And what happens to Muslims who refuse to become spies? The case of Ahmadullah Niazi is not atypical. Niazi was one of the several members of California mosque who sought restraining court order against another member, actually an FBI informant who was flagrantly advocating violence in the midst. When Niazi was subsequently asked to become an informant himself and refused, he was arrested on charges of lying to immigration officials about alleged family connections to a member of Al-Qaeda. The charges were ultimately withdrawn, but by then both Niazi and his wife had lost their jobs. Another Muslim, Khalid al-Akeli, when pressured to become an informant, complained to the Guardian newspaper in London that he believed he was a target on an FBI entrapment sting. One day after the Guardian contacted Al-Akeli, the FBI arrested him on a felony charge for illegal gun possession, based on facts that 2 years later he used a friend's rifle at a firing range, something he was prohibited from doing since he already had a drug conviction on his record. Al-Akeli was held without bail as a potential threat to the public and ultimately convicted. Fast track, I would say, huh? These recruitments were taking place in a climate of fear. In addition, tens of thousands of Muslims in America who were interviewed or investigated after 9/11. There was also by 2003, according to Ammon's compilation of U.S. government figures, 6,483 detained or arrested, 3,208 deported, 13,434 in process of deportation, and 144,513 interviewed, then registered under the Special Registration Program for the Department of Justice. Could we say a scapegoating? Exactly. You got to think about that, my friends. If people still believe the Muslims behind 9/11 You haven't done your homework. You just get suckered in. Remember, study history. Scapegoating is a dangerous trend. Any questions? Look at 20th century genocide and democide. It is instructive to study how the FBI handled drone victim Ammar al-Awlaki right after 9/11. Awlaki was on a go-go. I'm in for the U.S. media because of his willingness to denounce the atrocity as anti-Islamic. But if you use earlier, while a Muslim cleric in San Diego, he had been twice arrested and convicted for soliciting prostitutes. Call that Islamic, huh? According to Al-Awlaki, he had been set up both times because the U.S. government had been trying to recruit him as a spy. In 1996, while awaiting a traffic light in my minivan, a middle-aged woman knocked on the window of the passenger's seat. By the time I rolled down the window, and before even myself or the woman uttering the word, I was surrounded by police officers who came out of my vehicle, only to be handcuffed. I was accused of soliciting a prostitute, then released. They made a point to make me know that on no uncertain terms that a woman was an undercover cop. I didn't know what to make the incident. However, a few days later, I came to answer. I was visited by two men who introduced themselves as officials with the U.S. government, and they are interested in my cooperation with them. When I asked what cooperation did they expect, they responded by saying that they are interested in having me liaise with them concerning the Muslim community of San Diego. I was greatly irritated by such offer and made it clear to them that they should never expect such cooperation from myself. I never heard back from them again until 1998, when I was approached by a woman, this time from my window, and again I was surrounded by police officers who at this time had to go to court. This time I was told that this is a sting operation and will not be able to get out of it. Wow. Alaki's allegation may have been at least partly true. In 2002, he came under suspicion in the Operation Green Quest, an investigation of Muslim nonprofit organizations. The FBI reportedly did try to flip him using prostitution charges. Yeah, government knows best, right? Remember, my friends, this can happen to any of us, regardless of your faith or how you look like, or what you look like. According to U.S. News, FBI agents hoped Awlaki might cooperate with the 9/11 probe if they could nab him on similar charges in Virginia. FBI sources say agents observed the Ayman allegedly taken Washington area process into Virginia and contemplated using a federal statute usually reserved for nabbing pimps who transport prostitutes across state lines. Were the FBI's recruitment efforts successful? Another Muslim person of interest, Ali al-Timimi, tells a strange tale about al-Awlaki's unnatural provocative behavior. When al-Awlaki came to his home, Timimi said he started talking about recruiting Western jihadists. Ali had never in his whole life even talked to the guy or met him. Timimi's lawyer, Edward McMahon, told me Awlaki just showed up at his house and asked him if he could assist him in finding young women to join the jihad. McMahon said that Timimi was suspicious of Awlaki showing up completely out of the blue. It's from Jeremy Shaw's book, Dirty Wars, page 71. Timimi's attorney argued that Awlaki was wearing a wire at the time and asked the U.S. government to produce the tape, which would show Timimi's rejection of Awlaki's terrorist request. Government refused on the guards that we are aware of no authority for his request. Tamami, a promising research scientist, was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Another glaring indication that Awlaki had been flipped is the ease with which he was able to return to the U.S. from studies in Yemen in 2002, even though there was an outstanding warrant for his arrest. On October 9, 2002, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Colorado abruptly filed a motion to have a warrant for Awlaki's arrest vacated and dismissed. On October 10th, Awlaki and his family arrived at the JFK airport on a flight from Saudi Arabia. And a brief period of confusion, customs officials released them and recorded later that the FBI had told him the warrant had been removed from 10/9, which is October 9th. In fact, documents show the warrant was still active and was only vacated that day. Asked to comment on these anomalies, former FBI agents indicated that there were only two likely explanations. Either the Bureau let the Clarke into the country to track him for intelligence, or the Bureau wanted to work with him as a friendly contact. And there's links for this. So, does a similar analysis apply to the FBI's curious relationship with Tamerlan Tsarnaev, despite Tsarnaev's inflammatory behavior as reported by the Russians? And also in this country, a senior law enforcement official told the New York Times that the intelligence agency never followed up on Tsarnaev once he returned to the U.S. because their investigation did not turn up anything and did not have the legal authority to keep tabs on him. This claim sounds strange in the light of recent revelations about widespread surveillance of telephones and internet traffic of ordinary Americans and the ease with which law enforcement officials obtain warrants to probe more deeply into the activities of anyone suspected of ties to terrorists. The case of Tamerlan Tsarnaev, like in Anwar and Alaki, leaves many unanswered questions. But one thing seems clear. The FBI informant program, especially when dealing with the war on terror, has proliferated widely out of control. And I have to say, yes, I have to agree with it. And if anyone heard my shows in the past, know me pretty well. This is by Peter Dale Scott, by the way. The war on terror is a conflagration against its people. Saying at national level, but world level. The war on terror, the war with ourselves, and other means. This is very, very disturbing. And like I said, there's some beautiful people in the FBI too, but sometimes there's too much foul play. You have tyrants, you have entrappers. And that's why I always tell people, if they want to ask you questions, your reply is, what's the nature of this investigation? And you have the right to remain silent. Don't even say a damn word to them. They can give you all these wheel and deals, but you're going to get ramrod right in the rear. So, something you have to think about, my friends, who live in the United States. You always got to look at things in the bigger picture. So, next one here came from Greg Palast on U.S. election fraud and neoliberalism gone amok in Latin America and Greece. It came out today, if I'm correct, by Michael Nevrakis. Best-selling author and investigative journalist Greg Palast is no stranger to the electoral shenanigans. Through an extensive investigation of the elimination of tens of thousands of largely low-income and voters of color from electoral rolls in Florida prior to the 2000 presidential elections, Palast uncovered the ways in which the electoral outcomes, as democracy itself, are increasingly manipulated by powerful interests in the United States. Palast is also no stranger to neoliberal shenanigans, having investigated the actions of institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and the destructive effects of the austerity policies that they have promoted. In this exclusive interview, Palast discussed both of the above issues, including his upcoming crowd-funded documentary on election theft in the U.S. and the destructive effects of neoliberalism in the United States, America, Puerto Rico, and Greece. And Michael Navarro says, so we'll go back and forth. Tell us about your investigation into election fraud in the United States and how the presidential elections in 2000 set the stage for what it is happening today. His reply: in 2000, George W. Bush was first elected, but he wasn't elected. He lost the vote. The nasty secret of American democracy is what we don't count all the votes by all modern measures. We have one of the most corrupt and least trustworthy voting systems in the Western world. For example, in 2000, I discovered that the person in charge counting the vote in Florida, Katherine Harris, was a Republican official who was also a chairwoman for the Bush's election campaign. Conflict of interest. Before the election, she removed 56,000 African Americans from the voters' roll. She said they were convicted of crimes and therefore they couldn't vote. In fact, none of these people were criminals, but they lost their right to vote. Almost none of them were going to vote for Bush. So how Bush became president, people have to understand, out of over 100 million votes, Bush won just by 537 votes. Today, I uncovered a brand new gimmick called cross-check. Another million people are literally being removed from the voter rolls. The Electoral college system makes vote theft fairly easy and makes profitable because if you win a single state, you can get all its electoral votes. When they remove 1 million voters from such states as Ohio, North Carolina, and Florida, there are states that determine who becomes president. They have a new gimmick to remove people from the voters roll secretly, quietly. People don't even know they have been removed. About 1/3 of Americans mail in their ballots, and if their votes isn't counted, they don't know it. We know officially that about 6 million votes never get counted. Almost the votes removed from the votes are poor people, African Americans, Latinos, and Asian Americans. They are basically Democratic voters, and it is not only the presidency but the Senate, which is up for grabs. Even though the Republican Party does not like Trump, the problem is still they have to control the election and steal votes because they need to control the Senate. Interesting there. And that's why I'll just stop there for a moment. That's why when the 17th Amendment came into effect, it took advantage of it, okay, on this election fraud. That's why I was telling my fellow brothers and sisters in the United States, it's time to repeal the 17th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution because technically, originally, the Senate are considered the ambassadors of the state. So the governor, it doesn't matter the governor or the House or the legislators can appoint the Senate, a senator or two from each state. And if they screw up, they can recall them immediately and call them out. Now with the 17th Amendment, you got more cancerous propaganda, corruption, and centralization. Okay, something to think about. And for election fraud. This leads us to your film project as crowdsourced documentary titled Best Democracy Money Can Buy, which is also the name of one of your books. Tell us about the project. His reply, the book Best Democracy Money Can Buy was about the depth of these elections in America, how it just doesn't stop and it's gotten worse. The film, even though it's about a grim subject, is a lot of fun. It follows me around, an investigative reporter from state to state, seeing how many votes they're stealing, and you get to meet guys who are stealing the votes plus their victims. The subtitle is Tales of the Billionaires, Ballot Bandits. Billionaires and Ballot Bandits is another book I wrote in the important thing, who is buying these elections. It is very expensive to get elected, but it's even more expensive to steal votes. Is it very expensive to get elected? But is it even more expensive to steal votes? His reply, we hunt down the vote theft billionaires like David and Charles Koch, Koch, and their brother Billy Koch, who is often forgotten. We go after Paul Singer, known as the Vulture. He's funding efforts to block Black, Latino votes, and poor voters from voting. These billionaires have an agenda to help Republicans get elected, but they don't really care about the Republican Party. They care about their own bank accounts. They're going to support the theft of the election by Republicans, especially for the Senate. Here's the question again. In Latin America, we've seen impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff in Brazil, the electoral loss of President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner in Argentina, and continued instability in Venezuela. What's your take on these developments? His answer is oil. Venezuela was rebuilding its nation by spreading its oil wealth. Hugo Chavez, before he died, directed a massive shift in the nation's wealth from a small group of white elite. They didn't call themselves Venezuelans, but Spaniards, and spread money amongst the poor. With the collapse of oil prices, there was no way to continue this program of redistributing wealth unless you started taking it away from the rich. Now you have a revolution on the rich in Venezuela, and there is no money left in the treasury with oil prices destroyed. Any government would have a tough time fighting that. So technically, it's more like globalism, because it happened with the Russians as well during that moment. Sure thing in Brazil. Brazil was becoming a major oil producer, but suffered not only the collapse of oil prices, but also the collapse of its commodities, which was sold to China. As China's economy has slowed, Brazil's economy has died. The leftist government came under attack. They have impeached President Rousseff. But I can tell you the problem with Rousseff is that she never held public office until she was elected president, and she literally does not know how to speak to the people. I see that in Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. He's a wonderful guy, but he's not a politician. He has no idea how to speak to his nation. You got two non-politicians who are running governments in crisis mode. So technically, they are considered patsies, like them or not. They've been scapegoated. In Argentina, there's a situation that's very close to the Greek situation. We had the Kirchner governments, two presidents, Cristina and Nestor Kirchner. They have fought hard not to pay the vultures that took over the debt. They took over a different route from Greece. When Argentina bought an entire neoliberal program of austerity and privatization and liberalization and open markets, just like Greece, its economy collapsed. But the leftist government of Nestor and Cristina Kirchner took over. They rejected the neoliberal programs and austerity, tightened regulations, and renationalized critical industries. And suddenly, the nation thrived. In fact, the banks that were owned money ended up getting back their money because the economy grew. What happens in Argentina is a few vulture investors purchase some of the old debt of Argentina. Paul Singer paid about $50 million of Argentine bonds, then demanded $3 billion. Kirchner government refused, and Singer used U.S. law to strangle Argentina to prevent the nation from borrowing, to seize assets of the nation, including its Navy ships, on the high seas. Remember, the vultures never let Argentina or Greece. These guys buy old debts at a discount and hold the nations economically hostage. Unfortunately, in the case of Argentina, it worked. The leftist government, which said they will never pay these vultures, ended up getting thrown out of office, and a new right-wing government just wrote a check for the vultures for $6 billion, a 3,000% profit. This is like economic tyranny. Doesn't matter what. It's not even open free market capitalism. So I'm just letting you know right now. Don't even use capitalism in here because it's irrelevant. It's economic tyranny. Is a question now. A similar crisis has unfolded in Puerto Rico. What has been happening there? And now have the vulture funds been involved? His reply: Puerto Rico is one of America's last colonies. Puerto Rico, as a semi-independent state, got into trouble because, just like Greece, is stuck to the euro. Puerto Rico is stuck to the U.S. dollar. It's a Caribbean nation, so Puerto Rico has to compete with Haiti, Trinidad, Jamaica, but has the U.S. dollar. The Puerto Rican economy has been dying, and now people are fleeing. Probably nearly half the population of Puerto Rico now lives in the United States proper. The difference is that there's a real debate in the United States between paying off not only the banks, but the same vulture investors have gotten involved. Singer's vulture partner, John Paulson, is now the big vulture holding the bonds and debts of Puerto Rico. Many American politicians, President Obama and the Democratic Party, have called for allowing Puerto Rico to declare bankruptcy and not to agree not to pay for most of its debts and to refinance its debts with the help of the U.S. government. And this is not like the IMF. They are demanding all kinds of cuts and austerity. However, that's the Obama administration's position. The position of the Republican Party, for the most part, is to basically do what the Germans are doing to Greece, demanding massive austerity. We all know, too, Germany is part of the EU. Merkel knows best, right? Massive layoffs of public employees, privatization of electric companies, and cutting the pensions. There are many Democrats who are anti-Puerto Rico and many Republicans who support helping Puerto Rico. The problem is that the vultures support the Republicans. And even with the Democratic president, we have a Republican Congress that are holding up a solution for Puerto Rico, just like the Germans are holding up a solution for Greece. Another question: in Greece, the Syrian-led government recently passed further austerity bills, targeting the country's pension and tax systems and mortgaging the country's public assets to foreign lenders for 99 years. What is your reaction to the actions of the Syriza-led government and the continued insistence on remaining in the Eurozone? Syriza lied to the Greek people. It ran on a platform of saying, we'll get a good deal from Europe or we'll leave the euro. They had a lot of power on leverage. When they came in, there was a great deal of panic about Greece leaving the euro that could have been used to squeeze concessions, but concessions are somewhat meaningless. As long as you're in the Eurozone, you're chained to the German economy, chained to Germany's need for higher interest, chained to Germany's need to maintain high domestic employment at a cost to the rest of the Eurozone. I think Now, the whole idea of leaving the Eurozone, it's one of those things where you say, we should have done it a year ago. Every year, you say you should have done it a year ago. It's very late at a high price has already been paid, but it's still not the end of the price that Greece will be paying. Because if Greece doesn't leave the Eurozone, it will be stuck. And like the United States and Puerto Rico, there's no sense of responsibility to Greece by the European Union. The EU is not anything close to a union in any manner. It's an occupation, and I do say that lightly. You are constantly being told that austerity would save you, and it hasn't. Austerity is an idea that is dangerous and failed. It is really completely medieval. The idea of bleeding an economy, cutting your pensions and wages, selling more is going to improve your economy is insane. It doesn't work. For a simple reason. When you cut people's pensions and wages, you eliminate government employment. You end up with people who don't have money to spend, and if money don't spend, your economy dies. What happened in Greece was not a mistake. It was not a problem of the euro. It was a program of the euro. Is it the purpose of the euro? He replies, and now these past weeks the Greek government decided to go along with more austerity, but it's still not good enough for the Germans. And the Germans aren't demanding austerity because it was good for Greece or the Eurozone. They know that this will drag down Greece further. Even the IMF, which is infamous for its cruelty, says this is too cruel. Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet said, I can't watch this torture anymore. This will make it impossible for Greece to recover. If you look at the program that the lenders have in mind for Greece, they are not promising recovery anymore. They're saying that Greece will be in austerity mode for the next 20 years. That's not true. Greece will be in austerity mode forever. This is a permanent change in Greece's wages, a permanent change in control and ownership unless Greece gets the hell out of the Eurozone. Yes, it is too late, but it's not too late. It should have been done before. It's got to be done now. You have interviewed the founding father of the Euro economist, Robert Mundell, what did he have to say about the European currency and its objectives? A man who invented the euro is the economist Robert Mundell, who I have had a long discussion with. Mundell said that the creation of the euro was a way to bring supply-side economics of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher to Europe. By creating the euro, he said, will take away fiscal power, monetary power from governments. So if you're ever in trouble, you can't use stimulus spending or change the value of your currency. The only option left is to cut government employment, cut wages, eliminate union power, and privatize industry. What happened in Greece was not a mistake. It was not a problem of the euro. It was a program of the euro. It was the purpose of the euro. And Mundell, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, he was a man that created supply-side economics for Reagan. He actually believed in the long run this would be better for Europe and for Greece to get rid of unions and public employment and eliminate regulations that he thought were strangling the economy. This is an old right-wing Reagan and Thatcher view of economics, which is long discredited. But while supply-side economics is now roundly considered a failed economic philosophy, you're still stuck with the supply-side prison known as the Eurozone. The euro is a tool to enforce supply-side right-wing economics, and everything is getting hurt by this expected Germans who have recognized their economy to be an export machine, because for them the currency is priced too low. As I say, my friends, it's part of globalism, control, manipulation, corruption. Doesn't matter what side you're on. It's a real shame. I would love to see Greece separate from the European Union as well. I would like to see Puerto Rico may have to secede. If they support secession, I will endorse it. No one should suffer the consequences of fiat money and all that. This is what the big banksters do. That includes the IMF and the World Bank as well. And the Federal Reserve also. A lot of things are happening. And people now are waking up. are resisting, like what happened with Britain. Hopefully it will spread like fire, because the folks need to get out of this garbage, and furthermore, this economic tyranny shuns everybody, regardless of economic perspective or political views. You're always going to have some infiltrators and the corrupt try to do things their way. All right. Finally, this came from Accuracy in Media, or academedia.org. Sheriff David Clarke, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. The author is Alec Nitzberg. And it says here he was the sheriff of the Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. It says here, Black Lives Matter movement doesn't care any more about the lives of black people than the Ku Klux Klan, Sheriff David Clarke asserted during an interview with Accuracy in Media. Black Lives Matter, which I renamed Black Lies, Lies, matter, is nothing more than an astroturf operation. It's just the latest shallow disguised confederation, if you will, of community organizers and the leftists that specialize in fostering disorganization and rebellion in ghettos, other than struggling areas throughout the United States of America. Sheriff Clarke cited a study done by Dr. Timothy Johnson of Toledo University that invalidates the widespread claim that police officers practice racial discrimination. He said the study found that twice as many white men are killed in police use and force situations than black men. There is no research there is no one bit of research or data that supports the lie, which I call them black lies. Their lie about police use of force in the United States of America. Sheriff Clarke calls Black Lives Matter a hate group, saying they're nothing more than riot makers and they stoke up bitterness and resentment in people. And they use the police as a distraction from staggering failure of liberal politicians in these large urban areas where these ghettos are contained, comparing Chicago's crime-ridden culture of death to some war-torn sub-Saharan African nation that's constantly under civil war with a tribal mentality. Sheriff Clarke confronted the movement passivity on this issue. Where is Black Lives Matter? If they care about the lives of black people, will they be marching against the liberal establishment in these large urban areas and demanding better quality of life and a better way of life? But no, that's not what they're doing. They're instead using the police as a strawman, describing Black Lives Matter as a political construct that's developed and really turned out to be a get out vote and voter registration drive for the Democrat Party. Sheriff Clarke noted, while the Democrat Party did not found the group, the party views it as an opportunity to enrage and energize black people to come out and vote. When questioned about the movement's chief aim, Sheriff Clarke stated that their ultimate goal is to try to extract from government things that have not earned political power. They're looking for money, and they're trying to do it by force, by threats, by rioting, and others, I think, tawdry tactics. The unequivocal denunciation of the Black Lives Matter movement, Sheriff Clarke declared, I don't support anything that is fraudulent movement process. Yeah, people, you can say whatever about Sheriff Clarke. There's a lot of times I can disagree with them respectfully. There's times I will agree with them. But I can say this, based on what I've learned about Black Lives Matter, they are funded by pretty big companies. And you can look up, I know it's in my past archives, but you can look up Black Lives Matter Corporation. I think Actually Media has that, and there's plenty of links to back up their views. I think Ben and Jerry's is one of them, just to give you an example. So, something you gotta really look at, my friends. And there's a bunch of them. I've seen some of their videos. They talk to cops, speak English, and all that. You know what? When I'm an activist, I don't do that. I don't have to use profanity. I get my message across, get people thinking. That's what activism's all about. That's why I question these organizations. Sometimes I find a lot of them as a sham. It's just an example. That's why I always tell my friends, you got to observe responsibly. See things in a bigger picture. Do your homework. Share this information with everybody, whether on the internet, on the streets, or rallying. You want to enlighten folks, not degenerate them, not desecrate them. Unless they're politicians, you could ridicule them, but having all your ammunition, factual ammunition to back it up. So, what do we think about Sheriff Clarke? Respectfully, I have to agree with him in good faith. And that is really it, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the show. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, whether it's good or bad, whatever you do, you address it with decorum, or you got any information I would be interested in, you hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr. Oh, hold on here. Sorry about that. Always mess up. Tumblr, Freedoms Network, and Scene.life. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is number 3 at gmail.com. All right. Well, I'm going to play you a song from this gentleman named Payday Monsanto. And I'd like to thank the folks from Restorative Republic for listening to him. I think I heard him before too, so I like a lot of I heard some of his lyrics. And it was funny, even though it's hip hop, it's like everything else, man. You got your good and bad. I have a friend of mine asked me a question about hip hop, and I told him my reply was, you have your poets and your posers. He liked that because he knows exactly where I'm coming from. So it's called The Bad Guy. Came out this year. And I hope you like it. It does have some explicit language, so always observe responsibly. All right, my friends. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the monarchic resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.
But it appears you picked the wrong forum. Sharpen my spoons on poem. Come out the next day, gorging, ready to do a postmortem. Cut it up, slice it up like a DJ. On a technique back in the heyday. But it's not on record. Not on cassette tape, 8-track, or CD, check it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime performance, not recorded in front of a live studio audience. This is not a game show, let's make a deal. 50 count to your head, tell me how you really feel. Call me bad guy, but you don't know the definition. I will end your fucking sentence with a preposition. I'm the motherfucking bad man. Yeah, coming straight from the Badlands, yeah. Keep your distance cause there's murder on my mind. I will chop you up without a scruple. I'm the motherfucking bad man, yeah. Why you kicking like it's can? What? Don't you understand I do not have the time? I'm the teacher, you're the fucking pupil. Okay, class. I've been told I'm not a good communicator. You believe that? That might be true. Okay, class. But we will learn. At least I'm communicating. At least I'm communicating, mother. Chop it up. Throw it in the fire. Chop it up. Throw it in the fire. Chop it up. Chop it up. And watch it burn. Chop it up, chop it up, chop it up, chop it up. Who's the bad man? I'm the motherfucking bad man. Yeah, coming straight from the Badlands. Yeah, keep your distance cause there's murder on my mind. I'm the motherfucking bad man. Yeah, why you kicking like it's can? What? Don't you understand I do not have the time? Tell me, who is the bad guy? Well, what's your definition of bad? You have to ask Mike about that one. But really, what's the definition of what? They changed all your definitions. You're embarrassing me. Off with your head. Chop it up. Chop it up. Chop it up. Who's the bad man? Who can draw? Pardon the bishop and the rabbi.